Hi, my name is Jara. I teach people how to garden and grow food. Today I want to review 12 different heirloom varieties of tomatoes that I've been growing in my garden this season. For some reason, I really love to grow heirloom tomatoes. It's my favorite thing to grow, actually. And I don't know why, because they're also probably the most difficult crop that you could possibly grow. They're very finicky and they require lots of pruning, fertilizing, all of that to get a nice, big, beautiful harvest. So, for whatever reason though, it's my favorite. If you're a beginner gardener, I definitely recommend you start off with a smaller size tomato, like a cherry, or this is a currant here, before you move up to the beefsteaks, because the cherry tomatoes are just a little bit easier to grow. They have a higher disease resistance, they produce a lot, they just take a little bit less care than the beefsteaks. And then once you get really good with the cherries, move up to the beefsteaks, okay? Before we begin, I want to point out that a lot of these tomatoes have a lot of cracking going on, and that is caused by extreme fluctuations in weather. I'm in Florida. We got hit by 2 hurricanes back to back that caused a lot of influx of water, and then now we're in our dry season. Also, we got a really cold front in December during the weekend of Christmas, followed by a lot of warm weather, like literally the next day. Today it's January and I'm melting out here. So just to show you all the extreme fluctuations that we deal here in Florida, and it causes your tomatoes to crack, like the skins to crack, more often than what's normal for that particular variety. Some varieties of heirloom tomatoes are more prone to cracking than others, but regardless, it's very much like exacerbated when you have all these extremes and fluctuations in the weather. So a lot of them have this cracking going on, but it's completely edible. You just cut those pieces off. They're still delicious and tasty and definitely worth growing. But heirloom tomatoes are not like the hybrid tomatoes that you find in the grocery store. Those are specifically bred to have beautiful, shiny skin, perfect skin, but not much flavor. So that's why I like to grow heirlooms specifically. Even though they get cracks and stuff like this, I don't care. They taste delicious. And I am a professional seed grower. I grow tons of heirloom seeds and I sell them on my website, jarasgarden.com. So if you want to grow any of these same tomatoes that you see here, go check out my website. All right, so let's begin. First up is the Galapagos currant size tomato. These are actually grown on the Galapagos island, and they're a tiny little currant size tomato. And you might think, what am I going to do with all these? Well, for one thing, they're really good for fresh eating. So just like popping them onto the top of salads and things like that, they're delicious. Or if I harvest a whole bunch of them, like a bucket full or so, I will roast them all and make some kind of a sauce with them. All right, so let's cut one open. And always use a serrated knife when you're cutting tomatoes, because the serrated will, how do I say this, like not squeeze all the juice out, it'll cut it instead of squeezing all the juice out. So serrated knives are better, or like bread knives. So anyways, I'm just going to cut this to show you what the inside looks like. It's just like a light yellow inside. And the flavor right off the bat is just sweet. It's really sweet and very, very delicious, especially for fresh eating. A lot of you in Florida might be familiar with another currant-sized tomato called the Everglades tomato. That tomato actually grows wild here in Florida, so if you haven't tried growing it, I highly recommend it. But it also looks very similar to this in size, but it's red. And both of them pretty much grow the same. They ramble on the ground. I don't even have to stake them or anything. I just let them go. And when I taste test tomatoes, I often talk about the flavor profiles, because tomatoes have a lot of different flavor profiles. You've got sweet, you have smoky, earthy, like savory, acidic. There's probably a little bit more than that, but that's generally what I'm going to refer to as I taste these out. And you know what? My preference over the taste and flavor of a tomato is going to vary greatly depending on what your preference is. Maybe you like really, really sweet tomatoes or salty tomatoes. Some of them have a salty flavor. I personally like a mix of like everything. I like a tomato where it encompasses all of those different unique flavor profiles. But yeah, this is very subjective. In my opinion, they all taste great. It just depends what kind of flavor you're looking for. All right, so next up we have the Sweetheart Cherry Tomato. It's given its name because it kind of has a little shape like a heart, right? That's just pretty standard red cherry tomato. It's a little bit bigger than your currant sized tomatoes like the Galapagos one. But this one forms really, really pretty long tomato trusses full of like these little heart-shaped cherry tomatoes. It has a very nice flavor, like a classic red cherry tomato flavor. It's very balanced. Right away, I just get some savoriness and some acidity to it. Just really good. to continue with the cherry type tomatoes. This one here is called Galina. It's a yellow cherry tomato. It's much, much bigger in size. Actually, you know, like the size of a cherry, right? So Galina, let me slice this one open for you. I find that this one is very, very productive, and it handles, like, it just thrives in my garden, which says a lot, because in order to thrive in my Florida garden, you have to be pretty disease, pest tolerant, like all that stuff. So this one does pretty well here. It's just a normal, like, yellow interior. And I don't know if you've ever grown or maybe heard of the famous Sun Gold cherry tomato. This actually reminds me a lot of the Sun Gold. The issue with Sun Gold is that it's a hybrid, but everyone loves to grow it because its flavor is just amazing. It's fantastic. You have to grow it at least once. But I have a tendency to steer away from the hybrids because I like to grow heirlooms. I like to save my own seed. So growing an heirloom variety is really important to me. So I've been like on the hunt for an heirloom variety that tastes similar to Sun Gold. And surprisingly enough, a lot of the green tomatoes, like green when they're mature and ripe, taste like Sun Gold to me. But anyways, this one is Galina. And this one is not as sweet as the like Galapagos. It has a lot more like acidity and savoriness to it, but still really good. And these I love to use for fresh eating, like popping them onto salads, or if you get a whole bunch of them, you can like lay them on a plate, put another plate on top, and then take a knife and just cut right through that plate, and you'll slice all of them at one time. So next up we have the Hawaiian Currant tomato. This one looks a lot like the Everglades tomato. And quite honestly, I didn't find much of a difference between them. They both grow and thrive right here in my Florida garden, and they have very similar flavor. But some people report, for whatever reason, that in their garden, the Everglades tomato kind of tastes like acidic in a way instead of being savory and sweet. In my garden, they're savory and sweet. But if you're, I mean, all those things depend on your soil, what kind of minerals and stuff like that the tomato plant has access to. That will affect the flavor of your tomatoes. So if that happens to you, maybe try growing the Hawaiian Currant. This one's like sweet. I think it's sweeter than the Everglades tomato. The Everglades is like sweet and savory. And the last cherry type tomato that we have here, except it has a pear shape, is the famous yellow pear tomato. This is an old heirloom variety grown in the United States for a very long, long time. And they have these beautiful like little tear-shaped drop to them. Very prolific. Very, very prolific. One plant is all you need of this. And the inside also looks like that white yellow kind of color. This one's pretty balanced. It has sweet, acidity, savoriness, like all in one. And the last one I have here, actually the last one, I forgot about this one. This one is called Black Strawberry. And it has multiple colors on its skin. It kind of has like some black, more purple color on it. Wherever the sun hits it, it gets more dark. And then other sides of it has like streaking almost of like red and like an orange color. So really, really pretty little tomato. I have to say this is probably one of the most common varieties that I sell on my website. Actually, a lot of people love this one. I prefer that you eat it when it's like the most ripe as possible. That's when it has the most sugar content in here, more developed flavors, and it has a very good, like a little bit of everything. So that's why I really like this one. But I find if you don't let it get really, really ripe, like as ripe as you can possibly allow it to be on the plant before you harvest them, the flavor can be a little bit like way on the acidic side. For some reason, that's how it is. But definitely really, really good if you just allow those flavors to develop more. So let's slice it open. Inside is like a pinky kind of red color. And this is a bigger size cherry tomato. Yep, this one has like all the flavor profiles, but in my opinion leans a little bit more on the acidic side out of everything. So that's really good if you like want something with a powerful punch of flavor, like in a salad or something like that. Okay, so that's it for the cherries and the smaller types. Let's move on to some of my bigger beefsteaks. First up is Owens Purple. I have it upside down because again, the top, a lot of cracking going on. It's just what it is. This is probably one of my favorites. I love them all. But this one, it's just such a good producer for me. Out of all the beefsteak varieties that I grow, this is one of the ones to be the first one to start like ripening, right? So I'm harvesting Owens Purple pretty early in the season. Same thing with the Virginia Sweets and Paul Robeson, which I don't have Paul Robeson here, but those three are always like the first ones for me to start producing. Well, Owens Purple is actually a hybrid between Paul Robeson and Mortgage Lifter. And over generation and generation, they've stabilized the seed. So therefore, you can save seeds from this and get the same, tomato variety. It's considered an heirloom at this point. And if you've ever grown Paul Robeson, which is another really popular like red beefsteak tomato that a lot of people like to grow, and I agree, it tastes awesome. This one tastes like Paul Robeson, but it's bigger in general. The tomatoes tend to be bigger in size, and it's earlier producing, and it produces more. So it probably gets that from the Mortgage Lifter genetics. And anyways, let's slice into it. This one could have ripened up just a little bit more. It gets really like dark red in color. But look at the inside. This is like an awesome meaty tomato for like sandwiches. Like look at it. It doesn't even have like that many seeds. Just a lot of tomato meat in there. So if you're looking for a really good like red sandwich tomato, definitely I recommend Owens Purple. Really good. By far. When you grow your own tomatoes, like I didn't even like them that much until I started growing them. Because the ones you buy at the grocery store, they taste like water. They really have like no flavor. But I find obviously the ones you grow at home, you're letting them ripen all the way and they just taste a million times better. Next we have Curtis Cheek. So this is another one. It's supposed to get a little bit bigger than this, but the plant that I had was severely affected after the hurricane and barely like lived long enough to produce just one little tomato for me. But I'm going to taste test it and see what it's about. This one barely has any seeds in it. It's just very, very meaty. I'm going to assume that the inside is a little bit on the drier side because it struggled so much to like grow and produce just one tomato, and the plant finally died at the end, so it wasn't doing very well. I'm definitely going to try growing this one again because I found out about this variety from another heirloom tomato grower and he loves it, so there has to be some reason for that. But anyways, let me just try it. Oh wow, this is so good. It's very sweet. It's not what I was expecting for like a red colored tomato. It's actually the first time I'm trying it, guys. So very sweet. Not too much acidity in there. That is great. Actually, I gotta hurry up and grow more of this one. There are some tomatoes that are very sweet, like Anasmar. It's almost too sweet, like cloyingly sweet. But some people really love that. So if you like sweet tomatoes, definitely grow Anasmar. I have seeds for that one on my website. I grow it every season. I love to dice that one up and mix it in with like regular like tomatoes, like the normal red ones, because you get this really cool balance of regular like acidity from the regular red tomatoes and then the sweetness from the Ananas Noir. So it makes for like the best bruschetta ever. Next we have pink Berkeley Tie Dye. So this plant was also struggling. It is rebounding though after the hurricanes and everything. It's a beefsteak. They're supposed to be a little bit bigger than this on average, but she was able to produce 2 for me, and hopefully she'll continue growing and I'll get some more. But this one is like a kind of like an olive green color, and it has red striping, so kind of a unique look to it. The inside is, you're gonna get multiple colors. You've got green, you've got red streaks in there, and normally I really love the bicolored tomatoes. This is bicolor when you get different colors in the inside of it, because they have very interesting flavors. So let's give this one a try. Oh yeah, this one is sweet and very savory. I really like the contrast in flavors. All right, next up we have Mortgage Lifter. Again, this tomato tends to be on a much bigger size. It's given that name for a reason. But that plant was also struggling after the hurricane. It's okay though, I managed to get one fruit. It is growing, it's continued to grow, so hopefully it's on the rebound and it will produce some of the bigger size that I was expecting from it. But let's give it a taste test. Let me cut that one again. It's like very meaty as well. See the inside there? This one has a little bit of sweetness and like savoriness to it. So far, Kurdish Cheek wins on the flavor. All right, next up, one of my favorites is Virginia Sweets. It's a really pretty bicolored tomato. When fully ripe, you'll get blushing, like red blushing on the bottom. And it has like yellow, like a golden yellow color to it as well. This one is pretty sweet. The inside's really meaty as well, not a lot of seeds. The inside has much more pronounced red streaks in it. For some reason, this particular one doesn't really have that much streaks in it, but the bigger ones that I normally get have tons of like red streaking in here. So it's a very pretty tomato. Let's give it a taste test. Very sweet, and you get that like punch of acidity with it. And last we have Nepal. This is I want to say like a saladette size, a little bit bigger than a saladette size. It's not a beefsteak per se like these. These get really big, like up to 1 pound or more. These stay around 6 ounces or so, something like that. I have to say all of these right here are Nepal. They're very uniform. Like I noticed their size is very consistent. A lot of times when you grow the beefsteak tomatoes, they'll pump out like the initial ones are really, really big, and then the next subsequent flushes of them tend to get a little bit smaller. But this one, like, it's consistent with its size. As you can see, to me it looks very similar to a standard like grocery tomato. This one is very sweet and savory as well. It just makes for a really good tomato. Alright, well thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Remember to subscribe to my channel, that way you get notified of when I post new videos. I'm definitely going to be posting a lot more videos about the heirloom tomatoes as the season progresses and I harvest more varieties.